Rando RPG Livestream. I am John Max the Outlaw, your favorite facilitator and host for tonight's discussion on exploring the warrior archetype across TTRPG genres. Now, before I introduce our panelists and start the discussion, let's knock out our announcements. First and foremost, I am truly grateful that you're joining us for tonight's live stream discussion, or video on demand if you're watching this at a later date. I hope you enjoy the conversation. After the live stream ends, the full live stream remains available only for YouTube members, while the first 4 segments will be chopped into videos for the public to view a month from now. You have to wait a whole month. You know, some of you might be dead then. Just saying. You know, probably mean, but it's probably true. So what do we do here on some Rando RPG live stream? Well, in segments 1 through 4, we discuss topics surrounding the tabletop role-playing game hobby with an emphasis on individual experiences, desires, and expectations. In tonight's 4 segments on exploring the warrior archetype across TTRPG genres, we hope to provide ideas, suggestions, and food for thought for your tabletop RPG sessions. And in segment 5, we let down our hair a little bit and just talk about nerd issues of interest. If you think you have some presence, some charisma, the ability to infotain or edutain, God, I hate those words, but it's the only way to explain this. Good AV setup, free from noise pollution, and an interest in discussing tabletop RPGs in this format, join the Legion Myth Discord, link in the description to stay tuned for future topics. Help us get to know you, and maybe, just maybe, if I come down from my up on high clouds, maybe I will let you on the show to talk about your experiences. Please consider supporting Legion Myth through the links in live stream's description. YouTube takes 30%, Twitch takes 50% of your hard-earned money, while Rumble, PayPal, Streamlabs, and Ko-Fi take between 0 and 5% of your donation. Talking about Rumble rants and super chats, less than $20, I will read at the end of each segment. $20 or more, I will interrupt the segment to read your rant or your chat as immediately as I can. I will let them finish their thought first. And $50 or more, I will have my wife hand me my shot glass because it's not in front of me today, and I will take a drink in your name, and you can force the panel to answer any tabletop RPG-related question of your choice right then and there. If we make $100 or more in super chats or Rumble rants tonight, there will be a $125 Palladium Books or Drive-Thru RPG gift card giveaway. This thing's been rolling over for a while now, so we're up to $125. And we'll do that during segment 5 towards the end of the live stream. Legion Myth YouTube members, as well as tonight's super chatters and Rumble ranters, have the opportunity to win, but you must be watching at the time of the giveaway, else it rolls over to next week, like I said. Don't forget that Legion Myth moderators will time out or even ban people who attack any panelist or chatter, attack the argument, not the person, and keep your various Twitter and internet beefs off of my show. Charity we support is the Wounded Warrior Project, a national nonpartisan organization whose mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Please refer to the live stream's description for the link to where you can make your, hopefully, tax-deductible donation. And finally, here we are. Please like this video, subscribe to all the panelist channels found in the description, and they're already there this time. I was proactive for once in my life. They're already there. And thank you for your time and support. Now, with all that finally out of the way, joining me tonight, we'll start at the top of the screen. We have Akito. Also, do you want to go by? How do you want to go by? I was going to call you Timothy, but Akito, is that what you want?
Akito, Tim, Moron, whatever works.
All right, we have with us Moron tonight. Akito tonight. So, who are you? What content or products do you create, and what is your tabletop RPG experience?
Akito, my channel is Characters and Dice, where I make characters, so you don't have to. And I run Gambit. I've played 2nd edition D&D all the way up to 5th edition D&D. I'm exploring other sessions. My heart, my soul belongs to Palladium. But there are others valid, really good systems out there. Traveler, Renegade with their E20 system, and so on and so forth. So I try to have a wider range of options to pull from.
Okay. And then below him, we have Malachi. As usual, sir, who are you? What content or products do you create? And what is your tabletop RPG experience?
Malachi, I got my blog with my Megaversal musings, talk about tabletop games. Right now, I'm covering Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, a really cool 90s joke cola-fused RPG. Been in the hobby since the early 90s. GMing, player, do it all.
Okay. And back from a sabbatical to the dark side of the moon, Haven't seen him in a while. Is Mr. Max Poivant. Sir, who are you? Why do we care? No, what context?
I'm still in the dark side, as you can see, right?
Okay, he's actually still on sabbatical on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
So, what contents or products do you create, and what is your tabletop RPG experience?
Well, my channel is Reactionary Principle Gaming, where we talk about, we try to push a little bit further in the idea of role playing and stuff like that, right? And we have a very experimental approach. And lately, we've been playing with a lot of different systems. Just did Monday a game with EZD6 from DM Scotty, and we did a lot of like Traveler, Pendragon, typical Dungeon and Dragon, Castle and Crusade. Well, we go all around, right? Total Party Skill System, we played that too, from our friend King Wespinator.
Okay.
We really run the gamut. I like experimenting with system. I like experimenting with the setting. So that's what we do.
All right. Well, let's jump right into our first topic. Now, Mr. Max is new here, and what you guys don't know is he popped in like 2 seconds after the stream started, so he didn't get the breakdown of like how we do this. So we're gonna play this by ear. That's no problem. I know he can. He'll be fine. So we're just gonna jump into the first topic, which is the overall topic is exploring the warrior archetype across TTRPG genres, and the first segment is gonna be on defining the warrior archetype. And I can tell you, I have a coworker that I bounced some questions off of, and see how he answers some of this stuff, just to get an idea of like what some of my follow-ups might be. And right off the bat, he and I disagreed what it meant to be a warrior. So let's see what these gentlemen think. And we'll start with Timothy Ferrelli, Akito there. And so how do different TTRP genres define the warrior archetype, and what are the core attributes or qualities?
My experience is the warrior archetype is really the martial focused characters, those that are sword and board, archery, or gunslingers. Those could be considered warrior archetypes as well, or even boxers. You can have a melee boxer. That's a warrior type character, and they're usually looking at stat wise. You're looking for high strength, high dex, high endurance. Those are your primary. You need those to hit, to deal damage, to be able to not take the hit, and to be able to take the hit. And that's, as a whole, what I consider a warrior. When you're focused on the actual combat, you're focused on the mortals side, weapons, and training.
So I'm going to ask you this question so one of the differences that he and I had, because when I think of a warrior, just to put it in perspective here, is I think of it in the terms of kind of the core four of gaming, right? It doesn't have to be broken down this way, but this is just how people tend to look at it. You have your you have your warrior, you have your thief, you have your magic user, and you have your cleric. Now, you could put it in MMO terms, which is you have your tank, you have your healer, and you have your two types of DPS, magic and usually the thief. But what's that? And what's that?
Melee, I said, like, or
yeah. You usually melee, some sort of. And he was like, a rogue, because he's a more modern player. He doesn't say thief. A rogue is a warrior, and I'm like, but that's not. You know what? Very good point, because I'm not here to dictate what a warrior is. That's why we actually have this defining concept here. So would you say that, hey, I'm a thief, I got some pretty decent strength, I hide in the shadows, I take things, I go dungeon delving, whatever, but you know what, I also use a little bit of, we'll call it asymmetrical warfare, and to get, because I'm not going to stand up and fight anybody. Could you consider that a warrior?
I could consider that for role-playing purposes. A thief could call, I'm a warrior, but from a nuts and bolts rules perspective, no.
Okay.
But for role-playing purposes, sure. Why not?
All right, cool. So we'll move down to Malachi. Malachi, how do different TTRPG genres define the warrior archetype, and what are the core attributes or qualities?
Oh, I'm a little bit spicy because I kind of agree with your friend.
Okay.
I will say that a warrior, in my view, yes, your primary ability is going to be fight, whether it's melee, ranged, weapons are hand to hand, but also you're gonna have other skills that kind of round that character out, other stuff that you can do. You're not just gonna be a fighter. You're playing Star Wars, you could be a Jedi, that's a warrior, and you have the Force to enhance you. In my opinion, a cleric is a warrior of his god.
Okay. Oh,
That's all I got.
is that the end of
That's
your
all I got. Yeah.
Okay. So how do the abilities and skills of a warrior vary between genres, or in your case, even between classes like that? But something like high fantasy and dystopian sci-fi.
Well, I mean, you're gonna, like I had to say, played a lot of 7C in the early 2000s, and you always got to have those sailor skills if you're gonna play in a pirate setting, because most of the time you're going to be working on a ship. You would say the same thing with a Star Wars game. You're going to want to have those ship skills in working on a ship. And like if you're a warrior of a god, like a cleric, you're going to have that knowledge of your religion.
Okay. Well, talking about religion, I think it's a good segue to get over to Mr. Max over here, because I have a funny feeling I might know. You might surprise me, but I think I might know what direction he might be going in here. But so, how do different TTRPG genres define the warrior archetype, and what are the core attributes or qualities?
For me, like what defines the warrior is his expertise with weapon. That like weapons, using weapon is his profession. That's what he does. That's what he's good at, and that can go like in very different genre. Like if it's medieval setting, it's gonna go like axe, sword, bow, spear. Doesn't matter. Anything that is a weapon of his time, you know how to use it. If we go in modern time, you're gonna go into guns and firearms and stuff like that. If we go into sci-fi, it's gonna be like the laser gun, whatever you add, like the weapon of your time. The warrior know how to use it.
Okay. So, sorry, go on.
If you play like a game like Call of Cthulhu, which is technically classless, but if you play like the sheriff in that game, the guy that started with a gun, right, for some reason, then you're the warrior of that game. Same thing if you play like the ex-military, stuff like that. The warrior is defined by primarily his use of weapon. And I would disagree with your friend, with Malachi, that I don't think the rogue is a warrior, because that's not what defines him. Like he can use weapon. Everybody can use weapon. Everybody can use weapon of their trade, right? That's because combat is gonna happen. But that's not what defines him. What defines him is the stealthy approach and the roguish character, right? The cleric is defined by the religion. Yes, he can use weapon, he can fight, but that's not what is defined. That's not defining characteristic. So for me, like I would distinguish the warrior by that. He's a guy that his focus is on using weapon, and sometimes like end to end, depending on your setting and stuff like that. Sometimes this is put in a different category if you want to go with monk and stuff like that. But the typical
so simply, it's the primary focus is to well, I was going to use the Air Force thing: fly, fight, win. Like, so. I guess to put it in another way, you would say I'm probably not a warrior just because I went outside and got into a fight with the neighbor and you kicked my ass doesn't make me a warrior, right?
And your chair force.
In my chair. I wasn't talking about the Air Force in that one because I just fly at 35,000 feet, drop a couple of things, and then leave. But
we're air warriors.
Not because you get into one fight that makes you a warrior or a fighter, right? It's like the first half of warrior is war, right? You have to go like you think about war, and that's your focus, that's your profession, to some extent, right? And we can extrapolate, like I said, like the sheriff, right? Well, you can say like he's like the warrior of his time against crime and stuff like that, right? Just like he's the guy that, like, using violence is kind of his deal. Like that's what he get paid for.
Okay.
While like, the thief can use violence, but that's not usually like it's not gonna be usually like his first recourse. That's not like specialty. That's not what it's there for, right? It's there to open the door.
I got you. So Malachi, since you and him were at a little bit disagreement here. By the way, best first segment ever wasn't like 9 hours long, and I didn't take over it. So we got a little bit of time here, some back and forth. Did you want to mention anything with regard to the warrior in terms of what Mr. Max was saying?
Well, my only thing is like, a cleric can be a warrior if he's fighting the enemies of his god. Would he not be a warrior?
But where's his actual training focus? What is his main focus? It's not the fighting, it's his god. His main focus is his God and sending out the God's message.
So
Actually,
hold on, Malachi. I know you're going. I know you're going. Malachi, hold on. Because I need to ask this, because I think I know you're going. If I'm wrong, that's fine. But Akito, when you how do I say this? When you think cleric, what are you thinking of? What do they do?
Well, they're preaching they're preaching their sermons. They're spreading the word. They're spreading their message, promoting their God. Now, depending on this, there are plenty of clerics that are in armies. I mean, we have chaplains in the military today, and even fantasy. Yeah, they can play a full plate, sure, but their primary focus is to preach the word of their God. If their God is war, go for it. But it's still the primary focus is preaching the word of their God.
Okay, Malachi will answer after I read the super chat. So the super chat says, I would think that, thank you very much, Law Dog, for the super chat. And I just saw that he gifted membership, so thank you for that as well. I'd like to think that the name is self-evident. A warrior is one who's proficient in the skills essential to waging war. Weapon mastery, tactics, discipline, movement, and formations, leading and inspiring troops, etc. All right, thank you very much for the $20. By the way, I didn't think that this first segment was going to be this controversial. No, nobody's acting crazy in chat, but there's definitely differences of opinions in chat. I like that. And again, Law Dog, thank you very much for gifting the 5 memberships as well. All right, Malachi, let's see if you're going to go where I thought you were going to go. Go ahead and what's your response to?
Well, from the way I look at the cleric, he is, what you're describing, Tim, is more of a pastor, one that teaches the flock. A cleric is the arm of the god to get crap done. You're out there, you're in the trenches, you're fighting for your god. You're not, if you're out there giving sermons or whatnot, it's not your primary thing. Your primary thing is fighting for your god.
But I think the for your god is what define that, make it distinct, right? Because now, like, like the central thing of the cleric is this religious aspect. This like you're fighting for your god. Well, the warrior is fighting because that's his job usually, right? That's just what he does.
I look at it almost as a focused warrior.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, there's also like blur line. You can look at like Knights Templar, right? Like those I would call like warrior, even though they're definitely like a religious aspect. You go with classic D&D, like the paladin type, right? Is paladin more religious character, more fighter character? I would go more like in the fighter class, right? Just like more the martial character with a religious component. So there is some gray zone. But I think when I think cleric, and cleric also, again, some of them are going to be like more spellcasty. Some of them are going to be more like less martial focus. Some of them are going to be more ill focus and stuff like that. So there's a gray zone there. There's some of them are going to be more combat focused and a little closer to the warrior. But I don't think that qualify them as a warrior because it's not the focus of that's not what the character revolves around. The character revolves around God, and then in that aura, they can be like fighting include. But
now
I can see that.
There is one example that I know right off the tip of my hand of where what Malachi's assessment would be pretty close to accurate, and that would be the warrior monk out of the Palladium Fantasy. That has the word warrior, and he's a monk for gods, and their primary focus is the combat. And still, there's along with spreading they don't necessarily spread the word of their gods, but they embody their God's message and live as examples and still fight to defend. That's the closest I could think in that instance. But as a general rule, overall, unless it's specific God of war, then no, not generally.
I hate to be the dirty fence sitter here. But
We love it.
well, a couple of things.
Somebody's
Number
got it.
one is it's great that we're having this discussion because now the folks watching can decide for themselves. I also think that a lot of it has to do with setting, genre, and so forth. Mr. Max is right, where there's some gray area there, and different games, different settings are going to have different gray areas. And then Malachi, you know what? People are going to clip this, but yep, I was wrong. So you didn't go exactly where I thought you were going to go. Because what I want to point out there is if you're talking Dungeons and Dragons, how many spells does a first level cleric have in old D&D?
It depends on which edition you use.
Yeah, like in the old edition, you are like your first spell at level 2.
Right?
Yeah. In basic and OD is
But
level 2. But
Before you had your first spell, you can still turn undead.
Yep.
And you still had other clerical ability that were not directly like
Sure. No, but I mean, it was talked about, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that depending on where you go and what you look at AD&D second edition, and you got all these spheres and schools and whatever else going on, and it's a different game. That's the point I was trying to make. Not that that's the one right way. Just so I can see how people can look at it different ways. And there's a lot of folks in chat who are, I'll put this one up here because we're not going to answer it, but I think that it does the food for thought for us, and then we're going to move on. So what does combat focus mean? I'm sorry, that wasn't the right person, wrong. There we go. There are lawyers and doctors in the U.S. military who receive the same basic combat training as everyone else. Are they not also warriors? That's a rhetorical question. None of us are going to answer because we're going to move on to the next segment.
Oh.
But I mean, you can through the course of the other conversation, but it is something that I think that people out there for their own games get to answer. If we have time, we'll come back to it. But I do want to get to the next question. By the way, super chatters, $120. We will get you at the end of the segment. They're starred automatically. We got you. So
okay, I will want to come back to Mercurius' super chat then. He had a $2.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Fine.
No, we can go ahead. Oh, well, I want to read something real quick from the Castles and Crusades Castle Keeper's Guide on Clerics as Medics. Clerics almost never wonder about casting spells on people, as they are the spear point of any religion. Its fighting arm and worrying over healing the sick and wounded rarely comes into play. They leave that to the priesthood of their varying religions. The cleric heals when they venture comrades is more to serve their own ends and to personify the power of their deity than it is to aid the character who has fallen wounded.
Okay.
They are not heal bots.
Oh, that's one of the things, and I shouldn't die. By the way, thank you for the $2, Mercurius. We'll probably put it up again because I'll forget. I don't play heal bots, and if I'm forced to play a heal bot, I still don't play a heal bot. I always have a heal spell memorized because I think that is part of the role of the cleric, but I also understand that there are other spells that I can use that can prevent you from needing to be healed. So I use other abilities as well. Also, if you're just sitting there going heal up, down, and some whack-a-mole, that's a bad game. I'm just because I don't care if it's the game master or the game system or whatever. You guys have heard me rant about that a lot. I think that whack-a-mole style of D&D playing where it's like 1 hit point of perfect, 0 points I'm dead, 100 hit points, 99, 98, 90, dead, up, dead, up, dead. I don't like that. But anywho, let's move on to the next question, and we'll come back to some of these if necessary. See if I can actually do one of these on time today. All right, we're going to start with Malachi on this one. So, who are some of the most iconic fighter characters in real world myth or TTRPG lore? I don't care which way you go with it. And what can we learn from them?
Well, I think one that comes to mind is Karamoon from Dragonlance. He is a protector warrior because he's protecting his brother who is sickly from going through the trials. And then I will go with Obi-Wan from Star Wars. We see him as a mentor and a teacher at one point, and then when he's doing like his investigative kind of like what you could see in the Call of Cthulhu like game, when he's like going after Grievous and stuff. So you can kind of see the different kind of warriors you can play, and that's actually that you see that throughout his life on the screen.
Okay. You didn't lend me to one of my follow-ups here. We'll see how the conversation goes. We'll come back to you. Mr. Max Pavon, same thing for you, sir. Who are some of the most iconic fighter characters in the real world myth or TTRPG lore and or whatever? And what can we learn from them?
I think with the fighter, like it's even more interesting because like you don't even have to go to real world myth. You can go to real world. Like it's something that we have. Like we have those historical fighter, right? We have like Roland and William Wallace and all those like great character from history that embody that. But there's so many of it because it's an archetype that is kind of mundane. But because it's so mundane, it's so varied, right? You look at at Game of Thrones, and like have the character in there or just basically warrior.
Mhm.
You look at the Three Musketeers. That's what they would be. They would just be warrior, but each one of them got their own niche, their own little like specificity. The first myth we know, the first story that we have recorded, the Epic of Gilgamesh, that's a warrior there. Achilles, right, from the Iliad and Odyssey. That's from
Marduk from Sumerian.
Yeah, they're all like there's so many of them because it is so versatile as an archetype, and I think that's why it's a great one. That's why it's so interesting.
Because I know you can dive into this pretty well. So I'm just gonna. So what is it we can learn from those warrior types?
I think what we can learn is that you're not limited to one niche. You can bring your warrior, you can make it whatever you want. Like that's what you do, and then like you're not just a warrior, you're a whole person, right? So very different if you play Achilles or if you play Aramis in the Three Musketeers, or if you play, would Jean-Luc Picard be considered a warrior? That could be debated, I guess, but just there's a lot of different way you can go about, and I think that's what we can learn from that. Like, don't limit yourself to just like I swing my sword, right? You put some depth to your character.
You already touched on this a little bit, so I'm just going to ask it directly. What are some misconceptions about fighters and warriors in tabletop role-playing games?
That you're just there to be like the dumb tank. Mm-hmm. That you're just there to hit stuff, and that then when you start combat, you're on your phone and you do nothing. That's not what you should do, right? You play a whole full character.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go up to Akito, ask him the same thing. Who are some of the most iconic fighter characters in real-world myth and TTRPG lore, and what can we learn from them?
Hercules, Rambo, Starbucks. Three.
Yeah.
Those are three iconic heroes and warriors. You got Hercules, one of the strongest man, was a demigod with his strength, and you've got Rambo, freaking nothing but muscles, but gone through hell and high water.
Stop it.
Starbucks. Yeah, he. Take a pick. I prefer classic, but he piloted a Viper. But they were out and they fought.
Mm-hmm.
What do we learn? Determination, the grit of determination. You're going through everything to achieve your goal. Self-sacrifice, to get that goal at all costs. And with some of our heroes, even at the cost of your life, and some real world heroes, like Mr. Max said, any Medal of Honor winner, and those stories alone are inspirational to show what a warrior really should be.
What influences, and I'm trying to base this off of what you said here, do cultural and, say, historical references have on the creation of the warrior archetypes in various genre, in TTRPG genres, or what? I mean, you mentioned Rambo. That'd be great for, say, a recon game, right? You mentioned Starbuck. That would be good for a sci-fi game, etc. I shouldn't say do you think. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what influences do you think that these cultural, or again, we can look at movies and those might not be purely historical, but they are cultural references, have on the creation of warrior archetypes at the table?
It gives you a baseline of kind of an idea of probably what a heroic warrior would be. You know, Recon or GI Joe. I'm really wanting jonesing for some GI Joe, and I want to play man, I forgot his name. I want to play a big strong guy with freaking Modus roadblock.
Roadblock.
Yeah. So I make a roadblock type character. So it gives you a basis of where to go, but my roadblock is going to be different than roadblock because I'll have a different background. I'll have different influences. I'll have a different set of origins. So that just gives you a baseline of where you start and where your goal is for just the basic overall concepts.
Okay. I'm going to open this up for all three of you. It's just a follow-up question, but I think you'll all three have some interesting comments on this. What attracts players to choose the warrior archetype in various settings, from fantasy to cyberpunk? Like if you were to play a warrior, what attracts you to it? Or what have you seen other people, like why they want to play a warrior? Because to be fair, one of the things that we've said here is like, people look at it, it's just boring. Oh, okay, I'll be the dumb fighter, whatever. But no, there are some people just absolutely I love playing Borgs in Rifts. Like, I'm not a Rifts guy, but if I'm going to play, I love playing the Borg in Rifts. So what attracts you, and I don't care who goes first, what attracts players to choose the warrior archetype in various settings?
Okay. I've been going over the classes in Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, and the air fighter class is called the Deathbringer. And it's designed the way it's written where you can go toe to toe with anything in the game. And it just sounds like so much fun. You can, like we see in the old school Renaissance, where the fighter, he can make a number of attacks against one hit dice creatures equal to his level. Not in Neon Lords. He can continue attacking these until he misses.
Hey, whoa, that's stealing what I've got in my game, even though that game's probably 30 years older than mine.
No, it's pretty recent.
Oh, it's
in the last 4 years or so. Oh my God. I would
Yeah.
love to play this class in a game. It sounds like so much fun, just wading in there into masses like freaking Conan.
Okay.
Muscles, big weapons. My muscles aren't there. Okay, I'm IT guy, but I want to be the guy on the field. I want to be able to say, well, that guy's a big guy. I'm picking up this freaking cannon, out of like Fallout, and I'm loading it with a cannonball. I'm shooting this cannon with my own hands to shoot this Deathclaw. That's why you.
So it's the idea of just being like, I am strong, not the dumb guy that's two-dimensional, but just the idea, I'm strong, I can protect, I can fight, I can do things you can't do with my fists. So when you're out of your magic and you're out of your spaceship and you're out of your whatever, I still got these. I got the guns.
Yes.
I would say a healthy level of testosterone is what dropping nice. Play warrior.
Boom gun from
you're already like a giant nerd in real life. Maybe in your fantasy game you can play somebody that can throw a punch someday. But joking aside, just outside of being like just like it is the archetypal concept of the hero, right? It is the guy that is not born special. He doesn't have a god backing him. He's just a regular guy that say, you know what, I'm gonna fucking train with that sword. I'm gonna get good at it, and I'm against all odds. I'm going to go into the fray. I'm going to put my life on the line, right? There's something epic about that, right? Especially like you play a sorcerer. Well, oh, congratulations. You come from a bloodline. You're born with magic. No accomplishment there. But you say you're the guy like, no, I'm just a regular guy that decided to go the extra mile. Like for me, that's something that's appealing. That's where the heroism reside.
When you have the warrior just throwing it, they're all into it, and they're just going toe to toe with your opponent, and your arms running on empties. Your wizards are running on empties. Your thief just cannot move fast enough, but they're just slugging it out with the main guy. And if everybody has to leave, then your warrior can stay there and tank and just distract the main opponent to allow for sacrificing themselves to allow everybody else to leave. That sense of, I'm going to, I'm sacrificing myself to make sure that others live. And I have the power to do it.
I want each and every one of you to play Earth Dawn. Drink. Because
Hold on.
because what you are describing is the actual stereotype, and understand the Earth Dawn in order to get your magic, the power behind some of your abilities, you have to live by the stereotypes. And you've just described pretty much the Earth Dawn warrior stereotype. So good on you guys. Play more Earth Dawn.
Stop saying it.
Anything else that you guys want to say to each other before I knock out some super chats on this segment, move into the next one?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to ask Malachi. But
Sorry for being blurry.
Well, actually, Malachi, you were going to say something about the boom gun, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, let's see. Who wouldn't want to be a glitter boy with a boom gun?
Yes.
I just want to say, at least, Mr. Max, you're not just a head floating there.
No, I got arms too. Also, it's so damn early. Like it's still day outside.
But no, so normally you're kind of zoomed in. It's just your your shoulders and
He's actually Mr. Max today. He's not trying to be Holly from Red Dwarf.
or Max Headroom.
Or Max Headroom. All right, let's go through some of the super chats. That's not a super chat, but I'll put up anyway. I was going to say, hey, that's Mercurius gifted a membership, and there you go. So, Crispy, if you can bug RPG is dumb, I'm still open to playing in the Rifts game. Just saying. But thank you, Mercurius, again, he's gifted 2 memberships now. Thank you. And Law Dog gifted like 25, 30 of them. I don't know. Thanks. See, I already read that one. We did so there's only one super chat I didn't read, which is this one. I think we need to nail down whether a warrior is something you do or something you are. Someone who fights isn't necessarily a warrior just because he hits someone with a spell or a weapon. That's a fair question to ask, but that's one of the things that I like the idea of this show is that we can have the differing opinions, and then you folks out there watching can answer that. But I'll still go around the horn here. We'll start with Mr. Max. Mr. Max, do you want to answer that, or should we move on?
No, I want to answer that, but
Perfect.
I don't know. Like, I know I would answer that because I don't know which one would be. Like, I think like just because you're engaged in a war, or just because you're find yourself in combat, doesn't make you necessarily a warrior, right? Because it's understood that every character in the RPG are going to end up in fight at some point, and all of them got something they can do in fight. The warrior is the one that is main. That's where he shines. That's his main thing. That's what he focuses life on, right? So is that something you do? Is that something you are? Because all the characters are going to engage in fighting, they're not all fighter, even though they do the fighting. But
fighters fight, warriors war.
Warriors war, exactly. I would use fighter and warrior and martial character. Yeah.
Same here. Actually, that was one of my considerations for this topic for tonight. Is I originally had in my head fighters, like no, because too many people when they think fighter only think of like gladiator fighter or fantasy fighters. Like no, so I went with the word warrior for absolutely that purpose.
Right? Yeah. But no, I think like it's something. I would say it's something you. I guess that'd be like something you are, in the sense, because not everybody that's gonna end up in war is going to be the warrior, right? And people were talking about the army earlier, like, or there's some bureaucrat in the army, right? And they got the basic training and stuff like that. But then that's not their focus, right? It's just like, and when we think about like other setting that become more muddy, like if you were to do like a game like a Spaceship Trooper, right? It would be understood that everybody to some extent would be a warrior. But then since you want to differentiate the people in there, like maybe there's going to be a medic in there. Maybe there's going to be like they have like psionic or whatever. And
the IT guy, believe me, we have him.
Yeah, the IT guy. But so even though they had the basic training, that's not their focus. Like the infantryman, he did the basic training and then some, right? And then he painted something or whatever.
Well, no, you kind of make a point there, because if you look at just conceptually, and I'm not getting pedantic into this, just conceptually, a Marine is a rifleman. Every Marine is a rifleman. You're a rifleman first, your job second. Well, I can tell you from the Air Force, they might say you're an airman first. What does that mean? That means I work on computers, and and when they make me hold a weapon, I look at the Army guy and go, "What do I do with this?" So, which one's the warrior? Which one's not? Obviously, I'm exaggerating there, but let's go.
And like war is a big thing, and war are won by logistic. So when you have an army, you need like people that are not warrior to win your war.
Okay, Napoleon.
But,
Just look at when it went into D-Day.
Well, you guys know that I think it was Napoleon had that comment, an army marches on his stomach. So,
Yes.
all right, Akito, go ahead and answer the same question if you want. It's like, is a warrior something you do, something you are, or something in between?
It is definitely a mentality. When I was in the Air Force, we were all air warriors, hoorah, air power. But I wasn't a warrior. I was a freaking fuel cell mechanic. I sent the officer off to die, not me. I'm not stupid.
And they say they have college degrees.
Yeah. College degrees break them, high school diplomas to fix them. But so it's you've got your Rangers, you've got your Marines, you've got your SEALs, Air Force. We're all warriors, but that doesn't make us a warrior. I mean, like your example earlier, I get a gun. That's why I say Army is my hand-to-hand combat training. They guard a gate. They guard my gate. If they fall, I'm in trouble. I'm leaving. So it's a mentality. If you think you're a warrior, great.
Okay. Malachi, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, just I think what comes to, at least in the tabletop role-playing sphere, is that a warrior has to have that drive, that push on why he's doing that. That's the only thing I can add.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to end it for segment 1 then. I think that's probably the best segment of all of these episodes we've had so far. So thank you guys for that. We've got 3 more segments to go. But let me put this up. Please like, subscribe, and share. The next one is going to be on role-playing and character development. So we've kind of defined the warrior. Nobody agreed on the definition, but that's okay. But now we're going to talk about role-playing and character development for your warrior in a tabletop RPG. So I look forward to talking to you guys